Samhljóð. Icelandic orthography uses 16 consonant symbols, although the number of consonant sounds is actually much greater. B, D, Ð, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, P, R, S, T, Þ. Two letters that may stand out are Ð and Þ. Ð represents a voiced th sound like in the English word the, whilst Þ represents the devoiced equivalent as in think. We'll now look at some of these consonants in more detail. At the start of a word, the letters P, T and K are pronounced with aspiration, or a small puff of air after the consonant sound. English actually does the same thing. Listen for the puff of air in words like pick or take. Pabbi, taka, kassi. Unlike in English, the letters B, D and G do not represent voiced consonants. Voiced sounds are those which cause your vocal cords to vibrate. Try and pronounce boat or goat with two fingers on your voice box. You'll feel a vibration that isn't there in pick or take. In Icelandic, these three letters represent the same consonant sounds as P, T and K. The only difference is a lack of aspiration, i.e. no puff of air after the consonant. Bátur, dalur, gaman. These sounds are never voiced, so if you feel a vibration on your voice box, you're not pronouncing these sounds correctly. P, T and K are always aspirated at the start of a word, except when preceded by an S, e.g. skata, stama, spaði. Icelandic has 4 consonants which can be affected by devoicing, i.e. they can be pronounced either with vibration of the vocal cords or without. L, M, N and R. They're always voiced except when preceded by an H in the spelling. No H sound is actually pronounced. This just indicates that the following consonant should be devoiced. Hlátur, hné, hraun. Compare látur, hné, raun. And before P, T and K, lampi, vanta, fólk. Compare lampi, vanda, tólk. The L is similar to the Welsh double L sound in places like Llandudno. The M and N are trickiest. They're pronounced like a normal M and N sound, except with closed lips. You should allow your breath to exit via your nose rather than your mouth when pronouncing these, and you should feel no vibration on your vocal cords. Lampi, vanta. L and R also have a tendency to be devoiced at the end of a speech segment, e.g. maðurinn glaður. Pre-aspiration is a distinctive feature of Icelandic pronunciation and often one of the trickiest aspects to master for learners. Before double P, T and K, there's a puff of air, sometimes described as a breathiness. It's hard to do too much pre-aspiration, but if you don't emphasize it enough, it can create confusion, so best to overdo it at first. Bekkur, ekki, þekkja. Kreppa, sleppa, upp. Detta, pottur, sléttur. In double L and double N clusters, a T sound is inserted before the L or N sound. Knowing when to add this T can be confusing, but the rules are as follows. For double L, the pronunciation is TL in all native words. Stóll, bolli, milli, tröll, páll. In loan words and gælunöfn, or Icelandic nicknames, the pronunciation is just a long L sound. Knowing a word's origin helps here. Bolla, milla, grill, palli. For double N, the origin of the word isn't relevant. You can rely on the spelling. Following a vowel with an acute accent, I, A, or Ö, the pronunciation is TN. Fín, brún, einn. After all other vowels, the pronunciation is just a long N. Finna, brunnur, N. Note that in both cases, if double L or double N occurs at the end of the word, the L or N sound will be devoiced. T-insertion also occurs in the clusters RL and RN. The T comes between the R and the L or N. In fast speech, the R is often dropped from these words, especially kall, but this varies from speaker to speaker. Kall, erla, tjörn, örn. F has a few different pronunciations. The first three are shown here. At the start of a word, or when written as double F, it's just pronounced F. Fela, gafall. Between vowels and before eth, g, or r, or the start of a word, it's pronounced V. Lofa, sofa, grafa, hafði, hafrar, raf. Before L or N is pronounced like P. Keflavík, efni. The other three pronunciations are shown here. So in the cluster ND, it's just pronounced as an M. So you can just imagine FN is written as M. Hemd, nemd. Before NT, it's also pronounced as an M, except this time it's devoiced. So we have the puff of air through our nose. Nemd. Contrast it with nemd from above. Nemd, nemd. And in the north of Iceland, between au, o, u and another vowel, it tends to be dropped altogether. Lói, húa. Svo kemur tungubrjótur. Í fallegu stofunni var stemt á hefnd. Í fallegu stofunni var stemt á hefnd. P has three different pronunciations. Between vowels or at the end of the word, it's just a p sound. Api, glápa, krab, ösp. At the start of the word, as we've seen already, it has that little aspiration, the little puff of air after the sound. Pabbi, plógur, póki. Before T or S, it's pronounced like an F. Skifta, skipstjóri. G is one of the most unpredictable sounds in Icelandic, although the rules are fairly regular. It has 6 different pronunciations, the first 4 of which are shown here. So at the start of a word or between a vowel and L or N, it's pronounced k. Glápa, gala, hagl, logn. At the start of a word before I, A, I, or when written GJ, it's pronounced k. Gera, giftur, geispa, gæs, gjafir, gjörðu. After a vowel and before a, u, eð, or at the end of the word, is pronounced r. Fluga, vegur, lægð, sigra, lag. After a vowel and before t or s is pronounced h, which is like the h in the Scottish word loch. Dracht, lags. Between a vowel and y or yóð, it's pronounced y. Lygi, þægiskópla, segja. And finally, it's dropped altogether when it comes between á o u and a o u. Pláa, plógur, fljúga. Og svo kemur tungubrjótur. Glaða flugan flýgur hægt og óþægilega. Glaða flugan flýgur hægt og óþægilega. Then we have H, which has 4 pronunciations. The first, which we've already seen in some of the conversations we've looked at, is a K sound, and that's when it's written as HV. Hvað, hvalur, hveragerði. The next one is when it's written as HJ. Hjarta, hjálpa, hjón, hjörtur. And then, as we've seen already as well, it's dropped when it's part of the word initial devoiced consonant cluster. So when it's written HL, HN or HR. Hlynur, nera, hræðilegur. In all other environments, it's pronounced just as a regular H sound. So haka, herja, hóll. Then we have K, which has 4 different pronunciations. Between vowels or word final, it's a simple k sound. Raka, leikur, eik, lok. At the start of a word, as we've seen already, it has the aspiration, the small puff of air after it. Kafa, kaupa, köttur. Like the G, it also has this k or palatized form. So that becomes before the same set of vowels as G. So that's e, I, a, or when written as KJ. Keppni, keyra, kæra, kjaftur. And then finally, it can also be pronounced as h, and this is before T or S, and when written as X. Licht, Oktober, bakstur, lax. Then we have NG and NK. Langur, pungur, söngur. Engin, ingi. In the second 2 examples there, we have the palatized G sound. Engin, ingi. Then when written as NK, the ng part of the sound becomes devoiced. So we have blankur, flinkur, punktur, blöink. And note how the vowel pronunciations change under the influence of the NG or the NK. They become diphthongized, or they turn into 2 vowel sounds. So A becomes á, like in langur, and not langur. E becomes a, so we have engin and not engin. E becomes e, so we have ingi and not ingi. Ö becomes u, so we have punktur and not punktur. And then ö becomes ö, so we have blönk rather than blönk. Finally, we have these three sounds with some quick comments. The Icelandic S sound is very sharp, similar to Spanish. S. Note that it's always devoiced, it's never pronounced as z. The T is pronounced right on the very tip of the tongue. And the V is somewhere between the English V and W. Vatn, vatn, vatn. Icelanders often confuse these two sounds in English and may therefore pronounce words like village as willage.